120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Okay, my friends, once again, it's indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning's talk champion in Studio 1A, none other than the one and only Jonathan Small. Morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Doing fine, Stan. It's a pleasure to be back here. Had a week off last week for the holiday, but obviously we're back in session this morning.
Had a good weekend?
Yes and no. I mean, the weather was just crappy. You couldn't really get into the weekend the way I wanted it. I was rested, but just the weather pattern, man, it just was no sunshine. Felt more like March than June. But taking care of business, got some things done. So kind of a mixed weekend, to be honest. You know, the weather just wasn't like last week, man. Last week had a good time. Went to a cookout with some friends and had some nice food.
Down on the Cape?
No. This was in East Hartford, believe it or not. No, not the Cape. They had a cookout planned.
Martha's Vineyard?
Not there. Not on Martha's Vineyard. But food was excellent, tasty. Atmosphere was nice. So, first cookout really of the year, to be honest. So that was really a nice weekend. Overall, felt like summertime last week. Felt like autumn time this weekend and everything. But everything is back in session. So how was your weekend?
Great weekend. Great weekend. Had a good time. It was cold.
Oh yeah.
I had to turn the heat on.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't deal. I'm skinny. I don't deal good in the cold.
Who would think you'll be having the heat on in June, though?
Nah, in the house, man, it was getting cold. My wife was laughing at my daughter and I. We wanted the heat on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like 78. 60 is 5, 7, well, you know, but it was 70 degrees. That's cold.
Yeah, I mean, I had my jacket on. I think I had the heat on inside my car, though, believe it or not.
There you go. There you go. By Sunday afternoon, it was kind of getting chilly in the house.
Oh, and the weather forecast had said it was going to be 68 it was 90 to Friday, and then it got to be 6, but it was lower than 68. Maybe that was the high that he was talking about, or the weather forecast was talking about. But it had to be like in the 50s, because it was cold.
It got cold at night. We didn't have the heat on until Sunday. I turned the heat on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sunday afternoon, about 3:30 or so.
I see, Sunday was just such a strange day because the sun was trying to break out, like teasing you a little bit, but it never broke out fully, though. It just broke out for a little while, then it went back cloudy, and the sun would have made the difference. So even if it would have been cold, if the sun would have been out, I think that would have made me, at least me, feel a little bit different. I don't know about you, but the fact that the sun couldn't really break through, it was windy, it didn't rain a little bit.
Well, Saturday was nice. Sunday, I stayed in the house all day Sunday. But Saturday, we were out and about. So Saturday was a very busy day.
Yeah.
It was a very, very busy day. Yeah. So, hey. Well, it is Monday, my friends. And, of course, every Monday is a day that we go out and talk to experts at whatever field they're in. Jonathan goes and finds us interesting people from around the world. And so, of course, today is no different. We have a special guest joining us. Special guest Monday, I guess you could say. And so I'm sure we'll have another master class in the subject at hand. So Mr. Small, of course, the official booker of guests, we will let him have the high honor of introducing our special guest.
Well, good morning to people out there on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show. This morning we have a veteran in the entertainment industry from an award-winning music group that had a tremendous influence and impact on not just one level of music, from R&B to hip-hop to pop. The group has worked with just about every particular major artist in the music industry. They've been able to cross-range into other areas of entertainment. They was involved in movies. So this is really going to be an interesting, high-profile, fun guest interview this morning on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show. The guest this morning is from the award-winning music group Full Force, no other than singer, songwriter, producer Lou George. Good morning, Lou. How are you doing?
What's up?
All right.
I'm telling you, so if you see me sometimes pausing, because I can't hear y'all too volume-wise, but I'm doing the best that I can, but I'm very honored and happy to be a part of this show. I gotta tell you, the intro, I love the musicians, and especially the brother on the vibe, is really, really, really beautiful and inspiring. So you guys got a great intro to this show.
Thank you. Jay Hogarth on vibraphones.
Jay Hogarth, and I did caught the show you had earlier this week with him on, so we'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. Lou, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background briefly before we get into our topic of discussion?
Okay, so my name is Lou George. Actually, my birth name is Lucian George. I was born at St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And I found out also that our host, Jonathan Small, also comes from one of the islands. Rikers.
Oh, no. You're a comedian, man.
America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
We got him right here.
Yeah. He caught me off guard with that.
So my name is Lou George. My mother always gets mad. I said, Mom, I don't like people knowing my birth name because it's Lucian, but some people call me Lucien because I'm from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, or Lucian, or people call me because I'm a prankster, like now, John. They'll call me Lucifer because I'm like a devil, like a prankster and everything like that. My girls from the law call me that. But and my nickname and my professional stage name is Bow-Legged Lou.
Right.
So all the listeners and viewers out there, they could Google that name, Bowlegged, and then LOU, and a whole assortment of things will be popping up in the entertainment field. You know, so I started out in the entertainment business because of me and my two brothers, Paul Anthony and B Fine, or Brian, that's his birth name. The three of us started out as little kids. I think Brian was 5, I was 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, Brian was 4 or 5, I was 9 years old. Paul was 8, and the three of us went by the name of our group singing name of the Amplifiers. That was the name of our group. We was a vocal singing group. My father once heard my brother Paul singing in the bathroom. At that time, we didn't have showers, so you can't hear that story about singing in the showers because we didn't have any showers. So back then, and he heard my brother singing a song by Smokey Robinson. Smokey Robinson had this song back in the day called "If You Can Want," and Paul was singing that, and my father's like called my mother, honey, listen to this boy sing. Because my father, may he rest in peace, his name is Lucian George Sr. He was a vocalist back in the day, at that time. And he was singing in a lot of groups and a lot of doo-wop groups. And I remember he would be practicing in our home, and me and my brothers would see my father practicing the harmonies with his group. So that's something that he's always wanted to get into. So he basically was living through us after his group disbanded. And the three of us as kids, you know, after Paul was singing and my father was working with him, I got a little jealous. And I said, Dad, I want to sing too. And he got me in there with Paul. And then my brother Brian, who really didn't care about singing or performing, you know, my father had to force him and sometimes beat him, give him a belt beating to get into it and start singing with us. And then we did. The three of us were singing. And my uncle Cito, may he rest in peace as well, he's the one that told my father, hey, let's make them like a real group. Instead of just singing in the neighborhood, like for money and everything, let's do it. So my Uncle Cito bought us our first uniform with a shirt and frills down the middle. And he got us, him and his friend George McKinnon, they got us to be at the Apollo Theater. Back in the days, like I know people know about Showtime at the Apollo in the amateur hour, but the Apollo Theater in the 70s when we was there, the late 70s, they really had an amateur hour every Wednesday. I'm not gonna say hour, but an amateur show every Wednesday at the Apollo Theater, where people from Harlem would come there every Wednesday to see the professional show, whether it's Stevie Wonder or Diana Ross or the Temptations or Patti LaBelle. So after the professional show would be finished that Wednesday, then it would be the amateur show. The same thing you see now at Showtime at the Apollo. But it was a real thing every single week at the Apollo Theater with no TV cameras. So the three of us got up there and we sang this song called Cloud 9, which was made originally by the Temptations. Me and my brothers, we sang this on the Apollo Theater and we won first place. And you know, you get just like you see on TV, the audience approval, that's how you win. And we was excited because we were just three little guys and we was going up against a lot of people and we won first place that week. And what you had to do, you had to win 4 weeks in a row. If you win 4 weeks in a row, then you appear on the professional show with the professional stars. So what happened? We won 4 weeks in a row. And it was under the tutelage of my father and my Uncle Cito and their friend George McKinnon, because he got us to join in the amateur show. You know, it's just like in radio when you had to do payola to get your record played. They greased some palms of people at the amateur place at the Apollo Theater, and that's how we got on. We won 4 weeks in a row, and what happened was that a gentleman that was backstage, he went by the name of Joe Tex. Joe Tex is a legend in the R&B game, Jonathan, before your time. But Joe Tex was a legend in music. He was on the same course of Wilson Pickett back in the day, James Brown back in the day. So what happened is that Otis Redding back in the day. So Joe Tex himself, after we won 4 times in a row, he spoke to my father and he said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to be appearing at the Apollo Theater the following week with the Whispers and people like that. Could your sons sing with me, on my show?" And my father said yes. And the rest was history as far as performing, because we did 21 shows with Joe Tex at the Apollo Theater. Because back in those days, they used to have 3 shows a day. And we performed. Joe Tex let us perform with his band and himself. That's when things started just moving in the trajectory for us. But that's how we basically started, And
Well,
that was great, doing the damn thing.
mhm. Well, Lou, obviously people recognize Full Force as producers, although you are singers and you do sing and you've collaborated with the artists that you produce and also songwriters. But when people, I think of Full Force, the first thing that comes to mind would be the producing sound. Artists like Lisa, Samantha Fox, Cheryl Pepsi O'Reilly, James Brown. You've touched just about every particular artist in the industry. But you're saying that you got started off more as singers than producers. So how did you make the transition from as a group singing to becoming producers?
Right. So we made the transition to producers. It was like this: as we're a singing group, what happened is we moved, and we grew up in Brooklyn. First place we was Halsey Street between Patchen and Reed, so that's Bedford-Stuyvesant. And then after Bedford-Stuyvesant, we moved to Crown Heights, where we lived at Kingston Avenue. That's when we started really performing in the streets. And then after that, we moved to East Flatbush. So when we got to East Flatbush, the 3 of us, me and my 2 brothers, we joined forces with our cousins, Baby Jerry, Shy Shy, and Kurt. And that's when we became Full Force. I created the name because I always think Full Force is a dynamic thing. So as we're doing our shows, like all over Brooklyn, Manhattan, all the 5 boroughs, we would perform, doing our shows with our cousins, because we became a band. So it wasn't just the 3 of us singing. We had Shy Shy on bass, my brother B Fine on drums, Kurt on guitar, Baby Jerry on keyboards, and me and my brother Paul Anthony was the co-lead singers. And what happens is that we started sending in demo tapes to record companies, tapes of us performing like original songs, and we would send them to record companies, and we were getting rejected, but we didn't even know we were getting rejected, because after all those years, my mother used to have the rejection letters and just never showed it to us. And our guy, and so I had a friend in college. He went by the name of Steve Salem. May he also rest in peace. And he once came to see us perform in Brooklyn at this club called Club Ecstasy on Nostrand Avenue and Eastern Parkway. And we performed, and he was so impressed. And we went to college together. So I said, Steve, if you think you could work with us, because he had a great mind, he's very creative. And he did. He started working with us. And he was the one that always instilled in us to write original songs. So instead of just doing instead of singing everybody else's songs, he said, write original songs. But we couldn't get a record deal. And we never gave up, though. In this business, you're not supposed to give up hope. You're supposed to keep believing if you truly believe in yourself. And so after a while of sending in tapes and demos to record companies and not hearing back, Steve Salem said to us, he said, guys, listen, I think if you guys started writing and producing for other people, I think something will happen. And then Full Force will get a record deal of its own. That's what he told us. And that's what we started doing. I was kind of against it because I never heard of a group writing and producing for anybody. Just never, you can't even think of that. What group wrote and produced for other people besides themselves? So Steve Salem came up with that idea, and that's what we did. We got some neighborhood guys in our neighborhood by the name of UTFO. My brother B Fine had the concept, and he spearheaded the whole song for Roxanne, Roxanne, which was a huge hip hop record. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop this year, Roxanne, Roxanne turned out to be a huge, huge record that we Full Force produced, and we sang on the chorus, Roxanne, 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 because we were vocalists as well. So that became a big smash. Then my brother B Fine wrote this song called I Wonder If I Take You Home. I wonder if I take you home. He wrote this song, and he wanted a Spanish female singer to sing that song. He just wanted somebody Hispanic, not the usual African American. He wanted somebody Hispanic. And that's when Mike Hughes from Cult Jam brought Lisa to us in the basement, and we had auditioned her, and she won the part. We auditioned a lot of girls, but once we saw Lisa, we said, oh, we got to have her. And Steve Salem was one that came up with the name Lisa, so name her twice. And I Wonder If I Take You Home was a smash after that. And then after that, we recruited other acts like Cheryl Pepsi Riley, which Jonathan, you mentioned. We had a #1 record with Cheryl called Thanks for My Child. And then we did Patti LaBelle, Samantha Fox, James Brown. We were the last ones to produce an entire album on the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. And his last 2 top 10 records in his career was 2 songs. One was called I'm Real, which peaked at #2 on the Billboard R&B charts, and Static, which peaked at #5 on the Billboard R&B charts. So his last 2 top 10 records was written and produced by Full Force. And from there, we started writing and producing for so many people.
Well, excuse me, Lou.
Who actually?
Yeah.
Jasmine Guy from the show Different World. We did a top 20 record on her. Big Daddy Kane, Method Man. Then we started doing white people. Because we said there's 6 of us, and 6 people in Full Force. We split everything 6 ways. No matter if 1 or 2 people write a song, it'll always say written and produced by Full Force. We always believed in one for all and all for one. And we did
well, excuse me, Lou.
Working with the Backstreet Boys.
You can't hear me.
We produced and wrote one of their biggest records ever called All I Have to Give. Well, we worked with Backstreet Boys, Justin Timberlake and NSYNC, Britney Spears, LFO. We would always go Full Force. We just love white people, because that's when they were making hits all over the country and all over the world. So splitting up money 6 ways when we produced them was pretty good, you know? And such memories.
Well, Lou, I have a lot of questions, and I think, Stan, you may have a few questions. Oh, well, you don't have a questions? Okay. But before we get to the latter part of your production groups that you've worked with, let's go back to 1984 when you worked with UTFO, because that was really the first time, personally, that I kind of heard of UTFO, and also Full Force. And I think the collaboration was dynamite, and you kind of moved into the hip-hop sound. And again, you said you grew up with some members of UTFO.
I'm just walking into the next room so I can hear you better.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? All right. But again, I mean, when you started this album that you produced for UTFO, did you realize at the time that it was going to be a big smash? Think you can hear me, Stan?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Oh, okay.
This is crazy.
All right. Are you there? You can hear? Okay. Lou,
yeah, I'm here. I'm listening. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Okay, Lou, I was saying is when you started it back in 1984, when you was working on the UTFO album.
1984.
That was like the hip hop element, and you have a tremendous influence, I believe, personally, in somewhat of the transformation of hip hop towards the New Jack Swing, or the New Jack Sound, they call it, the New Jack Swing, I believe, kind of mixing R&B and hip hop together. But when you was working on the album with UTFO, did the Roxanne instantly come out to you and the other members of your group that it was going to be a major smash, or was there something else on that album that you kind of felt was a little bit better than Roxanne?
I mean, I can't. I didn't even hear you.
You didn't?
Man, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know you guys can hear me, but I can faintly hear you.
Can you hear me now?
What did you ask me?
Well, first of all, Lou, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Lou, I had stated again.
Just very low, but I can still hear you. What did you ask me?
Okay, this was about the UTFO album that you worked on in 1984. And at the time, you was kind of branching into the hip-hop sound. And you kind of get credited for creating what the New Jack Swing is that what they called it? The New Jack Swing, I believe, or something on that time. I gotta be precise. But did you realize when you was working on the UTFO album and you came up with writing and producing the Roxanne song that it would be such a huge hit, not only as a hit song, but also create like 25 or so much other battle rap songs to come out after that? So what was your take going into the album working with UTFO, realizing that this Roxanne was going to be an instant smash?
Okay. Thanks. I don't know what happened. I can hear you guys even a little better now.
Okay.
Well, when we worked with, first of all, the story is when we worked with UTFO, and like you said, that was like, cause hip hop started out like in the late 70s basically, and we was on the crux. So 84, when we did, when Roxanne became an unexpected smash, it was unexpected. And because we didn't know, because what happened is that Roxanne was on the B side. Back in the days, just in case people don't know, when you have a single, you had the A side for the vinyl records. You turn it over and you had the B side. The B side was secondary. The A side was the main thing. So at that time, we had what we thought was the A side of a song called Hanging Out. And on the B side was Roxanne. So it's more like a throwaway record. But my brother B is the one that came up with the idea to do a B-side and call it Roxanne. And then the three guys of UTFO, which was Dr. Ice, Kango Kid, may he rest in peace, he passed away 2 years ago, and the Educated Rapper, who passed away maybe 4 years ago. They all came up with their own raps for that song, Roxanne. We did not know it was going to become so huge. When it became huge, then a young lady by the name of Roxanne Shante did this song called Roxanne's Revenge. So it was basically a record dissing the members of UTFO. And she was like, why you want to make a record like me? No, why you want to make a record about me? The Roxanne. So even though it was Full Force's concept, my brother B's concept, Roxanne Shante went and did a battle rap, which was one of the first battle raps on record, dissing UTFO. And after that, like you mentioned earlier, Jonathan, it was 24 or 25 answer back records to Roxanne. You had Roxanne's grandmother, Roxanne the dog, Roxanne's brother, the Roxanne dance, Roxanne's a man. It was like such a phenomenon. It was so ridiculous. And we didn't see it coming. It was such a phenomenon. It's such a hit. We had to hurry up and do an album because the record was so huge. And that's what we did. We did an album with UTFO with not only Roxanne, but other hits like Leader of the Pack, Fairy Tale Lover, which was the first hip hop ballad ever. And the record went huge. And then when we did their second album called Lethal, that song's peak on the R&B charts was #2. That album's peak was #2 on the R&B charts. And the first album above that was Bad by Michael Jackson. So that just looked crazy on the charts just to see Bad #1 and UTFO #2 on the charts. So I have to say the Roxanne stuff is what catapulted us onto this journey of writing and producing for others. I mean, even before Roxanne, though, we were unknown, but we co-wrote the song. We co-wrote like 5 songs for Curtis Blow, and we produced. Um, and one of the biggest hits that we did with Curtis Blow was a song called Basketball. We're playing basketball. We love that basketball. That was huge. That was a huge record for us.
Yeah, definitely. Bring me back, reminiscing to junior high school, because that's all we was talking about was playing basketball, and then that song came out, basketball, and then the Roxanne. And then when you started in 1985, because you really can't separate, in my opinion, Lisa and Cult Jam from Full Force, because you participated on her album. You're on stage with her in certain shows, and you're singing on the song. So Lisa obviously, well, Lisa and Cult Jam was obviously a smash in 1985. It seemed like everywhere you was going at the time, I Wonder If I Take You Home was just being played. You had already mentioned how you was looking for a particular Spanish artist, like a singer. But did you kind of realize that Lisa was something special? I mean, she really had a tremendous sound, and she brought a lot to the table. So did you kind of realize when you was auditioning her that she was kind of going to be someone special?
Yes, we felt something, and she was more than just the singing and the song. She had the complete package. And the thing about it is that when she first auditioned, she was singing a bunch of songs that one of the members of Cult Jam wrote, and they were horrible. And then before she left, I'm like, man, I hope she could be the part, because she looked so fine, and she was so young, but she was pretty, she was cute. And listen, of course, back in the day, the imagery of you and sex appeal counted. And for Lisa's age, she was very well endowed with her bosoms. And sometimes people thought, is that why you called her Lisa? Because of her bosoms? No. But in this business, besides just the music and the singing, yes, the imagery sometimes will work. And it helped that Lisa was Puerto Rican and that she was beautiful at the same time. So we knew she was special in that way. And the way she sang was simple. It wasn't like Patti LaBelle or Aretha Franklin. That wasn't who we were looking for her to sing. We just wanted her to sing. My brother B. Fine said, I just wanted where Lisa could sing and you could hear it on the radio, and all the little girls, especially the Spanish girls, will be able to sing along with her. You know, because if Lisa sang like Patti LaBelle, then it's hard for a lot of girls to mimic it. So that's what we did. I Wonder If I Take You Home went on to become a monumental smash record. That's another thing we didn't know. And it's so crazy because Roxanne was a smash. Then right after that, I Wonder If I Take You Home was a smash. And Lisa was very special, along with the guys up Cult Jam. You know, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely telling you, I Wonder If I Can Take You Home. I mean, I was hearing that song at least 3 or 4 times a day. You just couldn't go anywhere at that particular time and not hear that song on a daily basis. Stan, do you have any questions, anything you want to add to the conversation or to our guests?
No, I'm just listening. I remember all of the songs, and it's just fascinating hearing, the genesis of the songs, how the songs created. These are like the soundtrack for your life. And so you can remember where you were when you heard certain songs,
right? Exactly.
And that was a hit, and everybody's trying to get the extended playing, and all this other stuff. And so to hear how those songs were created, it's always fascinating to me.
Yeah. Remember that. Well, again, there's many other artists that you had worked with, but you also participated in film as well. So you were the members of Full Force. You were involved in the first hip hop movie, Crush Groove. How did that all come about? I believe that movie was released in 1985. So could you let people know a little bit about that part of your career?
Okay, well, I'll tell you about how that movie came about, which was great. And before we move on, just so the listeners can know, Yep, 85. Just so the listeners could also know, because I know you guys have a loyal following, just to let everybody know the deal. And I'm sorry for bringing up people's secrets, like when I told everybody about Jonathan coming from Rikers. But I would be remiss if I didn't bring up another secret, that I gotta just let the listeners know. Like, um, Stan was talking about how he could remember where he was when he heard some of the songs, and I gotta admit that Jay Stan was also that's right, guys. Your guy Jay Stan McCauley, he could remember where he was when the Lisa Lisa song came on, and you know where he was, ladies and gentlemen. He was at the strip club that he visited every single night.
He's a comedian.
When he heard, I wonder if I take you home. That's right.
Yeah, this is a comedian.
That's right, Jason. Man, I'm sorry. Sorry to let out that secret, everybody. Okay, let me talk about the movie. I'm just joking. Just kidding.
That's okay. That's okay. As you mentioned, with Lisa.
Yeah.
So
So with Crush Groove was a movie about Russell Simmons' life, basically, and it starred Blair Underwood, who is my great friend of mine still to this day. But that was Blair Underwood's first movie that he acted in. Sheila E. portrayed his love interest in that movie, and then you had a plethora of hip hop acts such as the Fat Boys, Run DMC, the Beatsy Boys, LL Cool J. And that was one of the first hip hop movies with hip hop stars in it. And my brothers, Paul Anthony and B Fine, they were only in 2 scenes, but everybody remembered their 2 scenes because they played like the enforcers, like the bouncers of this club, where they would menace and
Just audio style. He mute. Can you let him know?
Yeah. You unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can. Yeah. There we go. Yep.
Okay, great. So my brothers played these 2 bouncers, menacing bouncers with Jerry curls, and my brother Paul had the ripped T-shirt, and they would beat up Blair Underwood or beat up Run DMC. So that whole bully stuff started with Crush Groove, and Crush Groove went on to become a good hit. But that movie was the precursor to a movie that we appeared in, where I, along with my brothers, appeared in, which has now become, and who knew that House Party would become a hip hop classic, not only hip hop, but just a movie in general. We're celebrating 33 years of House Party, and it amazes me that the movie is still relevant today and people love it, and it's a smash. I mean, I can't go anywhere without saying, like, when they go, I remember you from House Party, and then I got to talk in the House Party voice. I'm going to kick your freaking ass. That became like somebody called it an iconic line for in the movie.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that I created, and me and my brothers actually created our parts. We played the bullies in House Party, which was a huge record, which was a huge movie. And that movie was directed by Reggie Hudlin and produced by his brother Warrington Hudlin. And how we got the roles in that movie as the 3 bullies was that when the script was originally written, Reggie Hudlin actually wrote our names in the script like part of the description of how he was describing the bullies from high school, the bullies. And in the script, he said, a character, I guess Kid and Play might have been casted at the time, but they said the two characters, they get accosted and bullied by 3 jerry curled, muscular guys, somebody like Full Force.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it said in the script. Somebody like Full Force, So a friend of ours that knew us and that worked with us when we worked with Curtis Blow, he told Reggie Hudlin, he said, hey, Reggie, why not just get Full Force? I mean, you're describing them in the script. Just get them. Let's see if they'll work out with the movie. And he said, you think they would do the movie? He said, just call them. He gave us the number and he called up my brother, Paul Anthony. Paul told me and my brother about it. We went down and auditioned for them. They just wanted to see if we could act or what kind of chemistry we had. Needless to know that the three of us, because I'm a theater major in college, and I used to get my brothers and we would do a lot of acting together, just the three of us, in the house doing plays and stuff like that, really low key. So when we auditioned in front of the Hudlin brothers, we did an impromptu thing. They loved what we did, and they said, okay, we're going to roll with that. And the rest is history. We all got together. It was us, Martin Lawrence, Kid and Play, the late Robin Harris, Tisha Campbell, George Clinton, who played the old school DJ. We were there for all the rehearsals and the table reads, and we did not know we was making a classic. It's unbelievable how much that movie is such a classic, and just so proud to be a part of it, just so proud. It changed our lives, actually, along with our music, producing music as well. It showed that Full Force had other layers to them.
Right, and I believe you also participated in House Party 2. I don't know if House Party 2 was as successful as House Party
2.
Right, but I do remember seeing you in that film as well. So the versatility, obviously, when you think of Full Force, from songwriters to producers to entertainers as actors and other areas of entertainment, is very unique. Although today you see a lot of hip-hop artists participating in film and television, but you kind of started it very early, particularly with the movie scene. And a tremendous track record, obviously, when you get into success as producers. And again, Samantha Fox, now how did you was able to discover her and collaborate and bring her towards producing her? I don't know if you produced her entire album, but definitely a smash hit you produce of Samantha,
Samantha
Naughty Girl.
Samantha Fox, she's from London, England, and we wrote like at least 4 of her biggest hit records ever, especially Naughty Girls Need Love Too, which was a gold single, which sold over 1 million copies, and part of an album that went on to sell double platinum. And then this other song called I Want to Have Some Fun. We did that also. Samantha Fox was already popular in London, England, and when we were called to produce her, it was great. We flew out to London, England to produce her, and she had big pop records, R&B records is mostly like with the African Americans and stuff like that, African American radio. But when you're doing pop is like even bigger than that. You know what I mean? So yeah, we did some pop records on her, which was big smash hits. And Samantha Fox is just a sweetheart, a beautiful person. They called her also in England. They used to call her the page 3 girl, because I think in the England newspaper they would have her, and she's also very voluptuous. I guess we just like voluptuous women to work with. No, yeah. She was also very voluptuous. She was also very voluptuous as well. And, we just did great with her. And we're still friends to this day. I like to always keep my relationships. So we did great friends to this day. And, the smash hits that we did with her was phenomenal, So we're very appreciative of that. And we go back in time and I'm like, man, we really worked with a lot of people, besides James Brown, and besides people like a Patti LaBelle, who at the time we were so busy. And when they came to us and they said, hey guys, we would like you guys to write and produce some songs for Patti LaBelle, we actually turned them down. We actually said, we don't really have time, but tell Patty we love her. That's what we told her. And Patty lived in Philadelphia at the time, and even though we said we didn't have time to work with her, would you believe, as we're in our studio in Manhattan and we're working on other acts like Cheryl Pepsi Riley and LaToya Jackson and other Philip Bailey, we're in the studio with these people. One session, who walks into our studio but Patti LaBelle, unannounced. We didn't set up no meeting with her. She just came in there with her A&R person, Timmy Regisford is his name. They walked in, we stopped the music. She looked at us. Hey, Full Force, I'm Miss Patty. Okay?
Yeah.
I heard that you guys don't have any time to work with Miss Patty. But I'm telling you this right now. I want you. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're back.
good. I want you guys to get your schedule together. I want you guys to talk to Timmy Regisford, and we're gonna make a schedule for Full Force to work with Miss Patty, okay? That's all I got to say.
Mhm.
And she just left.
Right.
And we were so dumbfounded. We were so dumbfounded we couldn't even speak. And in my minds, we're like, who the hell do we think we are to say that we don't have time to work with Patti LaBelle? Are we ridiculous?
Yeah.
So we ended up working with Patti LaBelle on her album, Be Yourself, which was a gold album as well. And we did 3 songs on that album. And one of our most exciting treats and surprises to do was we knew 2 of our artists that we managed, which was Lisa and Cheryl Pepsi Riley. We knew how much they loved Patti LaBelle. And we told them both, hey, listen, next week we're going to be working with a new artist. We want the both of you to come and sing background vocals for this new artist. And when they came to the studio, the new artist was Patti LaBelle.
Right. That's a new artist.
And they were so, Cheryl and Lisa was so blown away. They were so nervous, but they did the background vocals in front of Patti LaBelle. It was incredible.
Well, again, I mean, I think sometimes people don't realize the versatility, as I mentioned earlier, of Full Force, being able to work with not just R&B artists, but pop artists, and being able to bring somewhat of an R&B sound still to a pop artist like Samantha Fox. The Backstreet Boys, I believe you work with them, and, you know, they're a very huge group. So
I'm sorry, who?
Was it the Backstreet Boys?
Oh, yeah, the Backstreet Boys, yeah.
Right, you worked with them on a song or album. So your, again, versatility that you can work with different types of styles of music and still bring out the Full Force sound to a particular different type of artist in the pop music field of work is really, you know, a real tremendous gift that I think the group Full Force has. Anything that you're currently working on now that you want to let people know a little bit about?
Sure. And Jonathan, let me not interrupt you, just to let you know, like, and thank you for noting that about us being versatile, because we pride ourselves to be versatile, to work with a plethora of artists, not just the Backstreet Boys, but Justin Timberlake and NSYNC. We also was the last American producers to work with the late great Selena, and working with her. I mean, you know, she passed away very violently when she got killed by somebody that was working in her camp. But even with Selena, because sometimes we do so many things and people's like, man, you guys work with this person, you work with that. So we're versatile and we're proud of that. So we could work with somebody like a Little Kim. We could work with like somebody like Big Daddy Kane, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, our own Lisa, UTFO, Cheryl Pepsi Riley. And the versatility is because there are 6 members of Full Force. So everybody's got different heads, different minds, but we come together. Like I said, whether it's 2 people that write a song, whether it's 3 people that write a song, it'll always say written and produced by Full Force. But I think because of the 6 of us and our mixtures, that's why we're so versatile. And just to jump real quick on the Selena story, I'll never forget when I was in the lobby of EMI Records, and I was looking on the screen, and I saw this woman dancing and singing. It was on a video screen in the lobby of EMI Records. And I asked the woman, her name was Nancy Brennan. She was an A&R executive. I said, Nancy, who's that? Who's that woman singing and performing like that? And then she looked, she said, oh, Lou, that's Selena. She's signed to our label. And, you know, I said, really? She said, yeah, but she's a Spanish artist. And I said, wow, do you think Full Force can work with her? Because she looks so beautiful and she's singing. And I hear her singing in Spanish, and I don't care if we have to produce Spanish songs. Can we work with her? And then she said, well, you know what, Lou? Right now, we're getting ready to do our first all English album on Selena, our full all English speaking album, because at that time, Selena just did Spanish records for them, Spanish albums, Spanish singles, and they were huge all over the world because I never heard of her. A lot of people never heard of her. But then when they said that, well, yeah, you know, Selena would perform before she had a record deal. She would perform some of our songs that we did, Jonathan, for Samantha Fox. They did a song called "Naughty Girls Need Love Too." They performed it, which was so crazy. And so she said, "I'm going to get in touch with Selena's brother and let him know that you guys would like to, work with her." Got in touch with A.B. Quintanilla is his name, and they got in touch with Selena's brother, and they said they love Full Force. So once again, I never heard of Selena, and I didn't know she was so huge in the Spanish market. And then when she came out with the English album, she was huge all over the world. And it's so crazy because we worked with her in the studio, and she was supposed to come back to Brooklyn to do this song called "Missing My Baby," just to do the backgrounds. And I'll never forget getting a call from my mother. And she said, Lou, are you sitting down? I'm like, am I sitting down? What are you talking about, Mom? Selena just got killed. I'm like, what do you mean Selena just got killed? She got killed. So after getting over, not even getting over, I'm like, unbelievable. She got killed. So we thought the album was going to be scrapped because she only did, I think, like 5 English songs at that time. And we thought that that whole album was going to be scrapped because it was supposed to be an all English album. But what they did, they called us up. Hey, guys, can you guys complete the song that you did with her? Because she already did her lead vocals. And Selena was such a beautiful person, too, with a great sense of humor. She already did her lead vocals. And they said, can you guys finish it? So we said, we'll do the background vocals since she already did the lead vocals, and we'll finish up the song. So they flew us out to Corpus Christi, Texas, where Selena's headquarters were. And it must have been like 3 weeks after she passed, because we still see the flowers on the studio steps and everything. And we went in that studio, man, and full force, we went and did the background vocals. It's a song called, which is so crazy, the name of the song is called "Missing My Baby." You can see it online, "Missing My Baby," featuring Full Force and Selena. And we did the background vocals right there. Once we was in the studio and we finished what we had to do, we invited the family, who was all there, to come hear what we did. It must have been 20 family members, the father, the mother, Selena's widowed husband. They all jam-packed in that room. We played them the finished product of "Missing My Baby" with Full Force doing the background vocals. And as they're listening to the song, it's kind of heartbreaking because the name of the song is called "Missing My Baby." And Selena's vocals are singing throughout all of that. And there they are listening to Selena sing and listening to the recording. After the song was over, the father, Selena's father, stood up and started clapping for us. After he started clapping, then the whole family started clapping for us. I'll never forget that as long as I live. And that album, which we did 3 songs on there, including a Spanish song called Tecno Cumbia, it went on to sell like 8 million copies. And we're so proud of it. I'm sorry, because I know you was asking me what we're doing now, but I had to tell you the Selena story, because not many people know that we worked with Selena if we don't speak it, but such a beautiful person, such a beautiful lady. But what we're currently doing now, I know my brother Paul Anthony, he's doing a solo project. He's got a great duet that he does with this young lady named Shalia. I just love it. You know, Best of My Life is just incredible. We have Baby Jerry, who me and him collaborated to, and Full Force, it's a Full Force production, of course. It's a song by Tiffany Janelle, and it's a remake of "I Wonder If I Take You Home," but it's done in neo soul form. And Tiffany Janelle is managed by a young lady by the name of Josie Harris, who was one of the dancers in Keenan Ivory Wayans in Living Color. And we have another group called Allure. Allure's has a new song out called "Loving You," and how we got with Allure is that Full Force, we wrote and produced a song called "All Cried Out" by Lisa and Co-Champ featuring Full Force. And that song was a ballad and it went on to be smashed. 10 years after that, a group, Allure, featuring 112, they did a remake of All Cried Out, and All Cried Out went up to be a big smash all over again. And even though we didn't produce it, we're still the songwriters. So thank God for Steve Salem up in heaven for telling us about writing and producing for others, because that's really our bread and butter, even still to this day. So All Cried Out was a smash. So the things we're doing that we produce is those three things. I'm actually doing an independent movie called The Cafe, which I start shooting in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're still doing our things. We're still Full Force is still doing our things, still creating, and God bless that.
Well, there's definitely a lot to think about when you think of Full Force, and again, the impact and influence that you played in the music industry, working with different types of artists, not just one particular style. Because, like I say, I think the misconception might be, well, Full Force is mostly an R&B type of producers, and that might have been the majority of your work. But obviously, again, being able to work with different types of artists, Spanish artists, pop artists, hip hop artists, creating the New Jack swing or the New Jack sound to some degree with one of your songs. I think it was Alice back in 1985, something on that line. Some people might give Teddy Riley the credit as being the creator of the New Jack sound, but obviously I think when people look at their history, your group Full Force might have actually came out with the first New Jack type of record, and somehow along the line Full Force doesn't always get the credit. I think personally Full Force doesn't get enough credit for what you have done, and I'm not just saying that because you're as a guest. I just think, just look at the history of what you've been able to do. And I just definitely appreciate, give Kevin Harewood a lot of credit, just say I want a big member of Full Force. Who better to contact than Kevin Harewood? And he's like a gold mine in this industry as well. And Stan, again, I don't know. Do you have anything you wanted to say? Again, I don't want to really leave you out of this. If you had any questions or anything you wanted to ask.
No, I thought that the information you shared was fascinating, because one of the interesting things about this avenue or off ramp for the discussion is just what it takes to put together music. And productions, whether they be movie, whether they be things you listen to, and the behind the scenes, and it's just it's fascinating to me. To me, well, there are television shows that somewhat talk about the subject, but just knowing what goes on behind the scenes and hearing other people talk about it is it's always fascinating to me.
Right.
We were having some technical troubles getting him on,
right? Because
he's in a place where the signal is just really, really bad. So he's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah. He somehow his signal dropped out, and he couldn't get a signal, so he was trying to use his phone. So his battery may have died, or the signal just is gone. But he's not here.
Oh, he's not on the air,
yeah,
so I can't even close him out. Okay.
Well, that's a great closeout.
That's a good, okay.
Yeah, so
all right.
So.
Well, again, I mean, it was an interesting topic. I mean, I kind of hate to end it this way, but still, since he's gone, off of the air, let's be realistic. We gotta, move on. But it was just something I'm glad we were at least able to get him on for the interview for this particular morning show. And I definitely appreciate you giving me the opportunity, as I try to say every single week. And obviously, he brought a lot to the table. And there's actually a lot more about his life, some other projects outside of the music industry that Lou George Jr. is involved with. But we really wouldn't have enough time to really cover everything.
Well, we'll have to have him back.
Have him back maybe as a part 2. And everything. And the Full Force sound was definitely instrumental, me growing up in that, hip hop era of 84, 85, UTFO, I mean, really, that was a smash album, smash song with Roxanne, and they're pretty good singers. I mean, somehow people don't give them the credit as singers. They got a really good voice if you listen very closely. Sometimes, the artist might, outshadow the producers or the background singers. Sometimes it's the main lead singer, like he mentioned, Lisa with the image and everything. So sometimes you can't always get the full attention when you're a background singer or you're doing co-singing.
The background singer has a job. So
has a job.
That's what they do, background.
Right.
But everybody's in their lane, everybody's in their spot, and you produce hits. But I'm always fascinated to meet the people behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
The artist is they're the face or the lead, but behind them is a whole lot of folks.
Right. It takes a lot.
Right. Producers, executives, A&R, promotion, and they feed a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said
a lot of people. It's a fascinating industry.
Well, it's the entertainment industry. I mean, that's why I was so highly motivated one time when he was trying to bring a major entertainment form of a company here, because I was just learning at the time. I mean, obviously you gave me some inspiration and some insight about, the opportunities that exist in the entertainment industry, and, definitely it still exists today. But it's changed a little bit. I mean, you could do things, I guess, with less people. This is still a competitive field of work or a competitive industry.
Yeah, you can do things with less people, but it still takes the same amount of people to do top flight stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think that will, for the most part, that won't change. Because it's the craft,
Right.
It's sort of like you can microwave a meal.
Uh-huh.
Where you can get a chef that bakes the meal and does the meal. There's no substitution for
a chef
for
the top. Exactly.
You can synthesize. You can get a full orchestra. That makes a big difference. And obviously, who's producing your record make all the difference in the world.
Oh, definitely the producer. I mean, you think about a producer is you can take an average artist, someone that's just okay, and the right producers and the right production sound can make an average artist sound like a great artist. This is not to take away from anything from particular artists, because there's been past history that people would say before Janet Jackson collaborated with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, her singing sound in her career was really, for music, was not really going nowhere too fast. And then she collaborates with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on the Control album in 1986. And the rest is history for Janet Jackson. Bobby Brown career after he left New Edition wasn't really going anywhere, and then he collaborated with L.A. Reid and Babyface, and Don't Be Cruel album, instant smash. Michael Jackson's a little bit different. I mean, they was very successful with the Jackson 5s, but still, when he collaborated with Quincy Jones, that 3 for 3 of Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad album. I mean, but Michael is a unique artist. I mean, I think Michael could be great with any particular producer, but you still got to give Quincy Jones a lot of credit still for his role. So the producer is a real key, and I think the songwriting too. You got to be able to write good songs too.
You need good song. You need a good team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm thinking of a good show idea, and I'm kind of concepting it towards 82, 83. One big event. It's not going to be the Michael Jackson's album, because I know I talked about that in the past, but something major took place in 1983 that I'm working on getting a guest to talk about. And I still think about, meeting you in that 82, 83 year with Miss Birdie Cody. For some reason, Miss Birdie Cody.
Was that when it was? 82?
82, 83,
okay.
Yeah.
How old was I? I was 22 years old in 1982.
Well, you was working at Pratt & Whitney, wasn't you?
Yeah, I was 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you being like, you seemed like you was tall, because I guess I was shorter.
Well, you were a kid.
And then
He was in the 5th grade.
Sixth
yeah.
grade. Yeah,
Sixth grade. Yeah.
And then you had
Yeah,
an
yeah,
afro and everything. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't never think of you as I don't think of you from that time.
That time, yeah.
To me, you've always been big like you are
Big
now.
like, nah, you can't picture.
It's funny you meet people who remember you from when you were small.
And unfortunately, I don't think we have any photo albums, anything about that year, because again, we were so rowdy that year. Miss Cody canceled the graduation. We didn't even have any graduations for the 80s.
Oh, that's right. You all was bad.
Bad,
That was
you know.
you all was a bad class.
And the lady did so much for us. You know, I didn't go on the trip to Washington D.C., but she took the students. Maybe she was doing that every year, but she took the students to Washington D.C.
Yeah.
I think that was giving some behavioral problems down there, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember. I know I went to Washington D.C. I think that might have been your class. So.
It was.
Okay, yeah. I was a chaperone on the Washington D.C. trip with the young people from Clarence Barber School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not to give you, I mean, you know, obviously Miss Cody really doesn't feel comfortable doing Zoom interviews, so I really can't really get her on. She wants to do something over the phone, but I like the Zoom opera.
Well, you could do the phone. Do the phone and just have a picture of her.
A still picture.
Yeah.
But you like that concept, though, a still picture? I mean, doesn't that kind of take something away from a good interview?
No.
It doesn't take,
No.
You don't think it takes anything away?
No.
Okay.
Radio does it all the time.
Radio does it, yeah.
You don't see either person.
I mean, I can deal with it. I don't love it like I love the, actual visual, but I guess I can make it work.
Right, but I mean, it's just a headshot. It's not like you're walking around, doing something. They're showing you their house or something.
Right.
It's
just a headshot.
Yeah. So you get a picture. Have her send a picture, and we'll put the picture up.
Well, let me think about that. Obviously, she stands out. I mean, you can't think about a teacher for me personally and not think about Miss Cody. I mean, there was other teachers that was instrumental, but you just
Birdie's a unique human being, and every kid that I've ever met, every adult that I've ever met that had Birdie Cody as a teacher, she was the teacher in their life.
Right. She was strict and firm, but love-hearting too. She really loved and cared about the students. But she wasn't no easy teacher. You wasn't going to push her over. I think you're going to play games with her.
She wasn't an easy human being. Nobody going to push Birdie over.
Birdie around, exactly. And all that. So let me think about that and everything. A lot of news stories. I don't know. Every now and then we talk about housing. And I think East Hartford is working on doing some major development. Because I took a walk over the riverfront, what they call it, the bridge that connects you from East Hartford to downtown. The Riverfest, I believe it's the bridge that you can walk over, and you can walk to Constitution Plaza just about in that whole area. And they're talking about for the first time doing some major development other than Rensselaer Field.
Yeah, down by the waterfront in East Hartford. Yeah.
But I don't know. East Hartford just can't seem to get anything big off of the ground. They always talk about things, what they're going to do with the Silver Lane area, what they're going to try to develop around Rensselaer Field. But they can't seem
I don't know. I don't know that much about East Hartford. I just don't know.
You don't know.
I'm not plugged into what's going on over there as to why there would be delays and hiccups. I'm sure it's the same as it is everywhere else. It's human beings get in the way, politics gets in the way, and who's going to benefit, and
well,
that's just a human nature.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know the ins and outs on the everyday business trends of East Hartford neither. I know Pratt and Whitney. Well, I used to work for Pratt and Whitney, so you know a little bit about that area. And I was actually not that long ago.
You should invite.
Yeah, I'm thinking about bringing
the mayor or
the mayor. You're right.
The development director for East Hartford to come on.
Right. If it's going to be something really concrete and big, I mean, if they got something, because I do have a housing expert that I wanted to bring on, but the project that they're working on has not been green lighted and finalized, and he wants to wait until everything has been complete.
It sounds like it's going to be a project for like a more like a upscale.
I believe so. They want to do some demolition work first near the Founders Plaza. Again, when you go right over the river bridge,
I know exactly.
You know
where you
exactly.
are.
Yeah,
I go past there every single day, twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they want to do some demolition first, and then do some development. I think the hard part seems to be getting the development. I mean, even the delay now with downtown North, with former developers of that project, downtown North in Hartford is now Cineplan. Yeah,
we had them on here. You interviewed two of their people.
Exactly.
I want to say Jay.
It might have been three.
You had three. You had the president. You had the
vice president, I believe.
And then you had the
owner of the baseball, Josh Solomon. He was on. Yeah.
Right. I remember those days.
Right.
Yeah.
But that seems to be a lot of delays too, though. So for some reason, downtown North and commercial business development. See, it's always you can get the housing. I mean, if you look at downtown now, Hartford, the downtown housing part seems to be moving kind of steady.
Downtown residential dwellings. Because when I think of housing, I think of homes, houses. I'm sure it's just semantics, but home ownership is different from renting.
Right.
And they're not building homes downtown.
No, they're not.
They're building rental opportunities. So in one breath, people talk about home ownership, but they're not building new homes. They're building rental opportunities.
Well, I can understand your point of view on that, but I got to be honest, and I've said this once on your show before, I think housing is the most major issue that Connecticut is facing. The inventory is low. The price range is high.
That's because the inventory
is low. Okay. Inflation is not helping. I mean, just my family up in Boston in the Roxbury section, I think I sent you a link to this. They're paying, and I hate to put people's business out in the open, so I'll be a little bit careful how I'm going to say this. But they're going to do some redevelopment where they're living at in the Roxbury section, and their rent is going to double from what it's currently going to be. They're not going to stay there and pay it because, I mean, if somebody come to you and you're paying, this is not the accurate number that they're paying, but I just want to throw people off a little bit about what they're really paying. I don't want to put their business out too much in open, but let's just say you're paying $2,000 a month to live, somewhat in an okay area. And the owner of the property is going to come to you and tell you, well, we're going to remodel or renovate the property and we're going to double the rent.
So where's the moving van? Yeah,
where's the moving van? But you see, your options might be limited, though. I think because of the low inventory, the cost of the rental market, cost of homes. I don't think you can go anywhere today, Stan, in Connecticut. I don't know about the entire country, and get a decent.
What is decent?
Decent is something clean, safe, not issues, not structural issues, not loitering, not landlords not keeping up the place. So I know I say decent sometime, and say, okay, what is decent? Not having any issues, like almost a move-in ready type of atmosphere.
I don't know. I've moved several times, and every time I've ever moved, I moved into a place I liked. The only place I didn't like living was Billings Forge.
You didn't like you like living on Enfield Street?
Actually, I did, yeah.
Okay, you didn't have no issues? You didn't see anything about that area that kind of made you wonder?
I mean, the area had some challenges, but I lived on the third floor, kept my windows open all the time. All summer long, my windows were open, nice fresh breeze. There's just a little issues, a little gunshots here and there. But I have a bullet hole in my wall right there.
Right.
So,
Well, you said the politically correct word that a lot of elected officials say, challenges. They don't
Are
say
challenges. I use challenges on purpose. It's not to be politically correct. There are challenges everywhere.
Everywhere.
However, when I was living on Enfield Street, people sat out on their porches.
Mm-hmm.
There were barbecues and cookouts. Enfield Street, I mean, it was as a community like any other community. 4th of July, people are out in the backyards cooking and having a good time.
Yeah.
Are there incidents where things happen? Things happen everywhere.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
This was a time when my car was being fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have my car. My wife was working at Harvard Public Access Television.
Right.
And she would come home on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled on the bus, walked down. I can't remember the street that was right in front of me. It goes up and almost to the Ebony Horsewomen. I can never remember that street. Nonetheless.
Oh, Westland?
Not Westland. 1 block over.
Oh. Okay, there's a couple side streets.
Yeah.
But
at nighttime, she walked home by herself. I walked home by myself. I had the kids with the baby carriage. I never had ever had a problem.
But you see,
and I was never ever afraid walking anywhere on Enfield Street.
The strange thing about what you're saying is there are many people who feel the exact way that you feel. And then there's other people who feel the complete opposite.
There's people that feel that way downtown.
Right.
Scared.
Yeah.
Scared. There are people who are afraid to come into downtown Hartford.
Right.
So the fear factor is up here. Now, and it's real, whether it's a real threat or perceived threat.
Mm-hmm.
The human being processes it as a threat. So those are personal issues. Everyone ain't gonna like certain places. That's why people have the liberty to move wherever they want. But I never had any problems on Enfield Street.
Yeah, but truthfully, you didn't stay really that long comparable to other places.
I was on Enfield Street for 3 years.
3 years? Okay, I thought it was only 1 year. So it was 3 years?
3 years.
Okay.
3 years.
Okay, well, that's long enough to kind of get a feel and taste of a place.
Mm-hmm. Now, I moved to Enfield Street from Coltville.
Yes. I remember that loft style.
Yeah, people thought it was crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought you had a reason, though. I thought you wanted to show some political.
Well, I did have a reason.
Reason, yeah, right. Well, again, I mean, my point is paying double your rent.
And I saved money on the rent.
Well, but then see, there's a reason why rent is going to be lower in some areas. I mean, I understand you do save money going from Coatville, part of the Coatville building in Hartford to Enfield Street or Barber Street. It's gonna be less because the demand is not that high. I mean, there's a reason why one area. It's not to put down anybody,
right?
But there's a reason.
This is a loop, episodic conversation Jonathan and I have at least twice a year.
Well, yeah, maybe more than that. And really, I want to bring a housing expert to get to the root of it. But like I say, the person is not ready because this covers a lot of different areas. I mean, perception, reality, a young woman getting killed on Westland Street, targeted incident, that can happen any place.
Absolutely. There's been people killed downtown. Mm-hmm. Doesn't happen often.
Doesn't happen often, no. But again, I think when people hear these things.
I was out campaigning in the West End.
Mm-hmm.
Had a very interesting conversation. This guy's house had to be maybe, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, like a block. If you walk from one end of the street to the next, where that's a block, 4 walking blocks away from Pedro Segata's house.
Mm-hmm.
Son was shot in front of the house.
Now, you said this was in the West End of Hartford?
West End.
Okay.
Right.
Well, the West End is misconception. I mean, some parts of the West End is not all like Evergreen.
No. Now we're talking near the Sullivans.
The Sullivans, okay.
All right.
So we're not talking.
You ain't hearing nothing about that on the news.
No, you didn't.
All right. So what I'm saying is that You know, everything is not all peachy and keen. Now, where people decide to show the spotlight is always interesting.
You mean the spotlight of negativity?
Right. So, always remember, the power of the press isn't what they present to you. It's what they don't present. The power of the press is what is not printed.
Right.
What is not reported. That's the power of the press.
Right.
To withhold information from you.
Well, you know, I'm smart enough to know the south end of Hartford, Weathersfield Avenue, and it's not all that. There's dangerous areas, Benton Street, Elliott Street, but you do hear about a major crime if it takes place. I'm not going to sit here and say the press, if somebody gets killed, they're not going to report it, you know, in any part of the city, because I guess legally or maybe business-wise, you know, things like that you really can't cover up too easily. You know, some other incident like carjacking, you know, loitering, other things that goes on daily. Okay, maybe the north end section of the city gets the bum rap. It's the same thing up in Boston, family up in Roxbury. Everybody looks like Roxbury, and Dorchester is the scum parts of Boston, and then there's no other problems in Boston other than in Roxbury or Dorchester. But that's not the case. I mean, there's problems that happen and beyond that, and it's the same thing here. It's probably the same thing all over the country. Some parts of the cities gets a negative press coverage comparable to other parts of the city. But you still got to be aware of, if you're going to make a decision on where you're going to rent or where you're going to buy, what you're getting into.
Absolutely, and that's a decision that every human being that's capable of living on their own has to make. You, the viewer, me, you, have to decide, is this a place I want to live? That is a responsibility of the individual. That's not like some group responsibility to make sure that that person has the perfect place to live. That's up to the person who's looking for the spot.
Well, yes.
It's not up to government or some housing society to make sure that you have the perfect place to live.
So if you're low income and you don't make enough money and you have to live in an impoverished, decayed area of the city, that's your fault. I
didn't say it was your fault. I'm saying that, okay, so if I become broke in January and I have no place for me and my kids and wife to live, whose responsibility is it to find me a place to live?
It's your responsibility to seek out the place that best suits what you're looking for. There's other factors that still have something to do with a place being, and the people participate in it too, don't get me wrong. You know, if people are going to trash, as I think you made a comment with your guest this past Friday about, well, the trash, people don't pick up the trash, and then you said something about downtown Hartford, they do the same thing when they have like an event, but there's still a cleaning crew that picks up the trash. So if you go in our neighborhoods and it's trashy and run down, people litter, that's still your fault, because you don't need to litter. If you see a trash can, why can't you wait to put something in the trash can? Why you got to dump trash in the middle of the street? But there's still supposed to be a cleaning crew that keeps your
there should be a cleaning crew. In an ideal world, the street sweeper would follow the trash truck.
Right.
Trash is picked up in every community once a week.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I don't care whether they're rich communities or poor communities. They find a way to put that trash truck in front of your house so that you can bring your garbage out and put it in the trash truck. There's no reason why a street sweeper can't follow the trash truck.
Right. Right.
And thus improve the conditions of the community. Keep storm drains clean. Little things like that.
Yeah,
Don't take
yeah.
rocket science. It just takes a little intentionality and a little bit of management skill.
Right.
This is not rocket science. All right. So if you have limited resources, well, then maybe you might roll back the trash pickup to once every 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Or street sweeping to once a month. Maybe twice a year. Places that can get away with doing that are people who don't have much influence on the political process, because these are political decisions.
Right.
Now, you're not going to get away with picking up trash once a month downtown or sweeping the streets once a month downtown. Downtown may not have the capacity to pay for it themselves, so they might put together a little downtown cleaning committee, right? Or you know, downtown has a little area, a little district, and they you know, collectively pay for the upkeep of downtown.
Downtown district, yeah.
All right,
Or whatever.
because there may not be enough money in the municipal coffers for that. But people pay for the services that they get. Now, how those services and resources are distributed to the general masses depends on the political clout of those people. You're always going to have a place where people who don't make as much money live as those who have a lot of money. And the places that people have a lot of money, they pay a lot of money for their rent.
Exactly, yeah.
And so if I'm broke, poor in January, and don't have no money, then I'm gonna have to find a place to live that I can afford to live in.
Well, you see, that's my point about how important housing.
Right. I
consists.
might have to actually move out of Hartford.
Yeah, or move anywhere that you can
Or move
find
anywhere I can find
live.
a place to
understand.
live. Right.
Right.
Because there's only so many places. At some point, you overextend the capacity of a community or an area to provide. At that point, now you got to go somewhere else. That's not a crime. It's not like somebody's against someone.
Yeah.
So where are all of the? If we get an influx of 2,000 people into the city, where are they going to stay?
Well, as I mentioned, I don't know where they're going to stay, but as I just mentioned, they're looking at doing some development plans in East Hartford.
They're not going to stay in East Hartford because they're not going to be able to build those things that fast. They can't even get the demolition together.
Demolition, then that's going to take time.
So these plans have nothing to do with relieving the immediate need for housing. Nothing.
Right.
What they have is a capacity to redirect taxpayer dollars or private dollars into some construction coffers. So that people can get paid and fatten their little wallets.
Well, you know, I think you need a short-term and a long-term housing plan. If you need housing today, you need some place to stay today. Now, you're going to always have hotels and motels, but that's going to deplete your money. So if you find yourself in a jam for whatever particular reason and you can't find a place quick enough, which could be today, could be tomorrow, could be next week, because it takes a process to get a place ready, you know, criteria and everything. The hotel usually is the instant solution. You know, if you got no place to stay.
It's not a long-term solution because you're going to run out of money very quickly.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to run out of money very quickly. So that's not a long-term. That's almost like an emergency situation.
That's an emergency situation. Stay at the hotel. Get your bearings, and then you're going to have to make some serious decisions very, very quickly. I've had family members who wound up staying here for a couple of weeks until they got on their feet a little bit better, and now they're good to go. But, you know.
Well, a low inventory and a high demand is a you can say politically correct challenge problem. That is it.
Right, that has nothing to do with politics. That's supply and demand.
Right. Although I do hear politics every now and then saying they're going to work on affordable housing in Connecticut.
That's what politicians do. They're working on gun control too,
right? So they will
and global warming, as though they actually have a capacity to do anything about it.
Right.
But it sounds good.
Right.
Politicians like that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm telling you, Stan, you don't want to get caught up in the bureaucracy when you start to have to deal with the housing authorities, waiting lists, red tape process. I mean, that is just
Unfortunately, if there are more people that need housing than there are houses, you're going to get caught up in the red tape of a waiting list. If you want to be on the waiting list, then you're on
The waiting list, right.
So that means someone has to move out before
You can move in.
one of 700 people can move in.
That's my point. That I think personally, housing is one of the biggest issues.
So what is the solution? It's an issue.
Well, people are building.
Always focus on the issue.
What
is the solution?
Well, the solution is there is planning and building. It just takes time. You just can't build a development of housing. You know, the new village at Park River or the Westbrook Village, there is a building plan that they're building housing.
Right.
You just can't get everything built just like that.
And those houses are not being built for the poor.
Right.
Well, let's just keep it 100.
Right.
So you still have a problem where folk gonna stay.
Well, if you need to increase, we get into this constantly. Okay, they're not building housing for the poor. They may have some set aside housing of affordable rate, but that's not the norm, though. That's a small percentage.
Right, and the dirty little secret is that most set aside housing for the poor will never be occupied by the poor because the construction of said set aside housing doesn't meet the HUD qualifications for the poor.
For the poor.
So they're not building houses for the poor.
Yeah.
They're gaming people.
Right. Okay. They use the terminology affordable housing, affordable rate, but you could call it whatever that you want to call it.
There's a difference between affordable housing and housing that people can afford.
Right.
See, words mean things. And these words are used on purpose. So if we're going to talk about housing people can afford, that's a whole nother subject. And that's attainable if that's what you're intentional about doing. See, the problem is that there is a group of individuals or forces that don't want housing for the poor here.
Right.
Let's just keep it real. Then we can actually start to work on a fix. But as long as people are playing this game, there will never be a solution because you're not trying to resolve the real problem.
Well, the problem that they'll try to convince you, and you'll come to some realization at some point, is I got to just make more money because I can't wait for affordable housing to be built that fits whatever particular low income area or low income status of people that you have. So the red tape of waiting lists, Section 8 housing vouchers, and all of these other issues is just going to be like going through a 1,000,000-mile process because you're going to find instantly a Section 8 housing voucher is going to have 2,000 people, a 5 to 10 year process.
Right. So now that you got the voucher, you ain't no one take it.
Right. Okay.
So it's when you're intentional about a thing, a thing can be done.
Yeah.
And people just have to be a little bit more honest about what it is they're doing if they really want, if there's going to be some fixes. Because people will talk all kind of game.
Yeah, well, the people I'm looking to book is actually working on building. I mean, it's a developer. He has a proven track record. They still got to go through a process to get things to the next phase. So I'm not going to put him in.
Is he here in Hartford?
Yes, he is. Well, not Hartford, but he's in Connecticut.
Is he looking to build in Hartford?
No.
Okay.
But close to Hartford. So he may eventually come to Hartford, but it's not initially in Hartford right
so,
now.
Okay. So he's going to talk about the process and what goes into this.
Yes, as a developer. I guess but I mean, he can still obviously answer trends. I mean, he's focusing on affordable housing, though. He wants to develop more affordable housing.
Now, when you say, "Oh well, I can't wait till he comes," because I want to know if affordable housing is something that people gonna rent, or is it affordable housing that people can then in turn purchase?
Well, no, this is going to be the rent. From what I've been able to talk to him about, it's more of the rental market.
All right, so he's looking to get into the rental market. He's either going to develop units that someone can then come in and purchase this building after he finishes developing it, or he himself is going to be that person. But the return on the investment is a renter, like a long-term subscriber that every month they're going to cut a check for $2,000, $1,800 every month. for the foreseeable future. If they move out, someone else will move in.
Right.
That's how they make their money.
Right.
A never-ending stream of money. Now, do you want to empower these people so that they can become independent homeowners, taxpayers who have a vested interest in the community? Because you hear people say that, but then there's no new individual housing units that are coming online.
Yeah, for homeowners.
For the most part, there are some, but they're few and far between. They're building way more apartments.
That's true.
They're converting everything downtown into apartments.
Right. I agree with that.
If business were to come back, where would then business go?
There's no space anymore.
There's no more space for them.
Right.
So they won't be coming to Hartford.
Well, again, we're not going to regionalize the area anytime soon. So we've talked about that. I think East Hartford has some potential. Let's see what they do with the demolition first. Like you say, everybody can't live in one particular area. So, if East Hartford is looking to do some things in the future, it looked like to me from what I was able to read about the East Hartford plans that they're going to look, and it looked like it's going to be apartments too, though. I didn't see too much about building homes neither. So that still could be another issue. East Hartford, you do have kind of similarities to Hartford. If you really look at the income level, according to the report, I think it's 18 square miles. There's apartments in East Hartford. There's a lot of renters in East Hartford. So there's some similarities between Hartford and East Hartford in many different areas.
I'm sure there are. The data is interesting, but I don't know to what it depends. Data is always interesting. How do you use that data, and what is going to, what are we trying to accomplish with that information?
Right. But I know when you're trying to get something done that's worthwhile, it's usually going to be a little bit more of a process, a little bit more harder than something that's easy and quick. That's not that valuable. That's not that valuable. So if you want to bring in legitimate businesses, you want to create home ownership in communities, you're going to find the process is going to be a little bit more longer most times than something that's not worthwhile.
By definition of what you're saying, that is obviously true.
But it's something
it takes
worthwhile.
longer to walk a mile than it does half a mile.
Right. But I mean, it's no different than the First Cathedral Church. I mean, they started off locally on Greenfield Street. It seemed like it's easy now that, you go out to Bloomfield and they have the state-of-the-art church, land space and everything. But I'm pretty sure there was a waiting process, some hurdles that Bishop Bailey had to go through.
Yeah, make the vision something that could be realized.
But it's easier now, I would assume.
It's finished now.
It's finished. But
it's a historical fact.
But for them to do other things, I think it's more easier now for them if they want to expand something beyond what they already have.
I can't speak to that because I don't know what their plans are, and I don't know what it is that you're referring to in terms of them expanding. It may be or it may not be because they have opportunities extended to them because of the things that they have.
Right.
But that does not automatically translate to easy.
Okay.
It could be more difficult.
More difficult.
Right. Because First Cathedral's going on 20 years? At least.
But they're not struggling. See, you got local.
Well, I don't know whether they're struggling or not.
It don't look like it.
Looks are very deceiving. They
Right.
gotta replace that parking lot soon.
Okay.
And the roof.
Okay.
And the HVAC system. And all the carpet.
That's true.
You see, you have a facility that size requires maintenance, ongoing, and then major maintenance.
Right. So looks can be deceiving.
Right. They got a parking lot. If you repair that whole parking lot, you're talking upward to $1 million. That's not gonna come out of thin air.
Right. That has to be paid by the First Cathedral too.
Who's gonna pay it?
Right.
The government isn't gonna pay it, not in a church.
Right.
And then you also have to worry about whether or not membership is going to decline. If people are retiring and moving down south, people age out. Somebody was 60 years old, they're 80. People are going to start to transition into the next world.
Right.
Okay. If their kids don't stay here and they move, so then where's the next generation of people coming in that are going to maintain that revenue that's necessary to take care of this of this facility. See, there's a whole lot more to this than just a vision. And so people think, oh, well, they got money. They need to. No, no. I'm just trying to put some flesh and blood on it. That's all.
Well, I mean, nobody is to say you have to have 10,000 members. I mean, we created mega churches as the new level of expansion, religious institutions.
Well, I would debate that.
You would debate that? Debate it on what means.
Right. It's not like we created the megachurch. The megachurch is a byproduct of a particular time in a period of growth. It's not like someone said, let's create a megachurch.
Right.
The churches were places that had big populations who all were energized by a message of a particular individual. And as time went by, more and more people joined the church, expanding families. And then they grew. And then you have the decline of the megachurches, where folks lost their big shine, their magnetism to draw people started to decline, and folks started leaving them.
Right.
So, there are waves of activities that happen. Times change.
Well, sometimes people, religious institutions get criticized. Some people have issues with organized religion.
As is their right.
They're right. You're going to have good and bad in anything. You're going to always have some issues that people may have that they're not in favor of. But usually the good should outweigh the bad. But again, whatever works for you, if you're not satisfied, that's where you get into freedom of speech. Who are you to say churches should not have to pay taxes? I mean, you see, when you start dictating certain changes.
Well, churches don't pay taxes.
Right. But if some people start to advocate, well, how can we get out of this church and state model? How can now are churches really businesses? Or they're really,
I think that's that's a fair discussion. Anyone can feel any way they want. I don't have a problem with how anybody feels.
Right.
Their desire to feel a certain way has no bearing on me whatsoever. The problem comes when I start to adjust myself to how they feel. That's when the problem sets in, and that's not their problem. That's my problem.
Right.
See, once you surrender sovereign authority of your own head, you're in trouble.
Yes.
You let other people influence how you think, what you do, how you respond, and they'll have you jumping all over the place. What they think doesn't matter. I'm very respectful of how other people think, but because they think a particular way, don't amount to hell with beans.
Well, just like me telling you, I think housing is the most important issue, but I can't. That's just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. You say.
I don't think you're wrong. I think to you it is an important issue, which means it has merit and should be looked at. That doesn't necessarily mean that housing is the most important issue on a scale of things that are important.
Okay.
And even if it is important, what is our capacity to attack the problem that you are identifying? Every problem that is presented, while it may have a solution, may not be there may not be a practical fix.
Right.
We need to fix the Fukushima power plant in Japan, but it ain't gonna get fixed.
Right.
They're working on it as we sit here and talk.
Well,
they will be for the next foreseeable future.
Well, probably like you say, look at what is more durable to be fixed. If housing is more of a challenge to resolve, then maybe the economy is a little bit more of an easier challenge. Maybe focusing on the economic structure. There seems to be
that's a heavy lift.
That's a heavy lift too, though.
Because the economy is not something somebody sits down in a room and says, you turn on the red switch and the economy will be fixed. There are a lot of things that cause the economy to be up or down. We're coming out of a pandemic. They shut the entire planet down. They broke the commerce machine.
Right.
So that's a pump that needs to be primed, and it may not ever get back to where it was. or when it comes back, it's going to be totally different. These are the things that people need to think about before they do them, not after.
Right. Well, the economy, I mean, when I say the economy, sometimes it could be working towards building something with your dollar. And then that's another issue, too, because everybody's not going to work together with your money. You know, we can build our own economy, you know, but again, convincing everybody to participate and invest in your money together, building something together, it's just, you takes a trust factor that many people don't have. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. I mean, same thing. So, you know, we got a situation, if we're going to be honest, then, however, who fault it is or what should be done, there's a tremendous chronic unemployment and underemployment problem that I see in our inner city neighborhoods.
Well, that is true, Jonathan. But, you know, as you are so apt to observe, there are lots of problems. There are no end of problems. And if you look for them, you will find them popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
So what can we fix? What's the solution? Because you will run out of lifetime identifying what's broken and what's wrong and what's broken and what's wrong. And you do need to identify things that are not working right so they can be fixed. But what's the fix for each thing that we identify as being wrong? And let's work on that, and then we move to the next thing. It's not enough to just point out what everything isn't working and what we got to be honest about that's not working, because it changes nothing.
Yeah, but if you got people who heads are in the sand and they want to pretend that it doesn't exist, it's one
working for many years to resolve many problems.
Right.
The problems are resolved because you work with the people who have the capacity to fix them.
Right.
If you got 1,000 people and only 2 are willing to do the work and 2 can get the work done, let's work with the 2.
With 2, right.
I don't care what the other 998 do. It doesn't matter as long as they stay out of the way.
Right.
Because they are not going to be the problem. The problem is that those who can fix it won't. So who can fix it? You and you? Are you willing to help? Let's get to it.
Well, you know, I got sort of criticized a little bit when I brought up the Urban League. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I know they recently had a job fair, and I think that was at Dunkin' Donuts Stadium. And I think a job fair is good. I think if you got companies and businesses that you can attract.
You got a lot of heat for that. Yeah, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think people didn't really see. I got heat, but it was really a recommendation. But a recommendation could still be like being negative. If I say the Urban League should change their platform and address things towards a different area, it's a recommendation. But don't expect me, and I'm just one individual, so it's just my opinion. But don't accept me to like something or agree with something that I really don't agree with.
You don't have to agree. I think the problem is when outside entities sit in positions of policy setting and mission execution about what someone else should do.
Right.
Because they're not in a position to even begin to suggest such. They can have whatever opinion that they want. But because they have opinion does not mean that somehow anyone in existence has to somehow acquiesce because they have an opinion upon what someone else should do.
Well,
I think that's where the pushback.
Well, there's been people with higher intellectual, even Dr. Claude Anderson, he may criticize the Urban League or the NAACP that they
But
should.
who is Dr. Claude Anderson to criticize the NAACP? He's just another human being. I don't care what his IQ is. I don't make him special. He a man that has an opinion. And all his opinion hasn't changed anything that the NAACP does it?
No, it hasn't. But,
so there you go.
But Dr. Claude Anderson has a track record of doing things. I think his family owns some type of busing company in North Carolina. So he has
more power to him.
Right. He worked for the Jimmy Carter's administration. So he has a track record of getting some things.
So let him do what he does. Maybe he needs to double the capacity that he has
Right.
to do what he does, not tell everyone else now what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
As though what they're doing isn't benefiting somebody. What they're doing is benefiting a particular group that they serve.
It is. I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, and I'm not. I said I think a job fair is good. I think you bring in companies, you bring in businesses. Mm-hmm. But I've had one time about 20 plus years ago. I went to the Urban League, and one of the executive directors, this was his own words, he felt that they should have the businesses within the building. He has no problem, administrating, from what he was telling me about referring people to different companies that hire. But he said he would like to see some of the companies and businesses directly inside the Urban League building, or move towards that type of agenda. So it hasn't just been outsiders. This was probably, I think, about 2001. But I remember the conversation I had with the executive director, and he felt that he would like to see the Urban League have some businesses within the building itself that can hire and invest in people. Churches do it. You got mega churches who have legitimate businesses where they hire. Well, the Urban League does hire people, though. They do have a staff of people that work for the Urban League. But I mean, like we had the president or the executive director for the Urban League in Miami. I think his organization,
his Urban League, is very much different than other urban leagues, right?
It is. He was doing things outside of the.
He was doing things outside of the Urban League model, wasn't he? He's breaking the rules, but he is in a position where he can do that because he's kind of like hijacked the Urban League down there. To put it, I guess, bluntly. Yeah. And he's been very successful.
Right.
He also is a very big, powerful individual for putting people into political office.
Right.
And steering the vision and direction of a whole community. And being that anchor upon which all those other things come to pass. And he's building a succession plan.
Well,
for people to come in behind him and carry the torch forward.
And he's a millionaire too. But see, I think and he said that was his own word.
Right. So he is not the standard. He's in essence gone rogue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would like to look at. I guess you can look at his results of what the Urban League exists, of what he's doing in Miami, comparable to other places that's doing something the traditional way. But he was kind of following the same footsteps as Dr. Claude Anderson, because he had even mentioned on his show. I think I asked him. I said, "You sound just like Dr. Claude Anderson," and I think he knows Dr. Claude Anderson.
I recall. I think he knew him well.
Well, so.
Right, so maybe him and Claude Anderson went out to dinner, and Dr. Anderson put a little couple Anderson drops in his drink, and he came out with a new mind.
A new mind.
So who knows? However, he is off mission. From what the league would normally be doing, it would seem. Right? There's a mission. You stay true to the mission. You want to change the mission? That's cool. But the mission doesn't change because some outside critic says it should change. The job of the director is to keep that task present and on mission.
But from what I understand, the Urban League is really is like an economic institution. Their main focal point is dealing with economic and everything that's circulated.
Why don't you call the Urban League guy back up and have him come back in?
Yeah, I was just thinking of, you mean the one from Miami?
From Hartford.
Oh, from Hartford.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to hear anything differently than what I heard the last time. I mean, from what I'm looking, well,
so
you're right.
The bottom line is you should look for an entity that serves your purpose, not reassign everyone's mission. The mission assigner.
But see, here's where we're still missing. You can call it an outsider's point of view, and maybe I should just try to rally more people.
I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I could say, why don't other institutions advocate that some of our urban lead offices and other nonprofits start CRT. Are you satisfied with how CRT is running? The executive directors making $300,000+. The Meals on Wheel drivers are making below minimum wage. I mean, isn't there some imbalance? I know he has the executive director. Has
I don't know how much the executive director at
he's making
CRT,
a six.
If he's making six figures, then he's worth it.
He's worth it.
Right.
So CRT, from what you put you on the spot. I mean, I can say CRT mission has changed from when Kerry Sachs and Perry and other people started that organization back in the 60s.
The mission changed because people who run CRT changed the mission. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with people changing their mission.
Okay.
That's not within my purview.
Okay.
I do know that good management is worth every penny that they get, that they are paid. Mm-hmm. Now, replace him with someone else and they may be out of business in a year and a half.
Right.
Then the guy who's making how much driving the truck won't have a job.
Right.
And the people who are being helped by their after this program or that program or this program, all of those programs need leadership and someone who has the connections and the key relationships to move their agenda forward in light of the competing interests that want access to the same resources they want. Mm-hmm. That's why he gets paid the big money. So folk are quick to criticize the big money, but they don't know what he actually has to go through to earn that money and to keep those doors open, to make sure that everybody goes home with a paycheck at the end of the week so they can feed their families. See, that's why he gets paid the big money. Well, so people want to criticize the CEO, but then
let me utilize me into CRT because I think I can say this. My godparents were good friends with people who work for CRT. So I was raised by godparents, and I know a lot about CRT because I knew people that worked there. Mm-hmm. In the past, I've gone through CRT for a few issues here and there, and I've walked away somewhat dissatisfied. Now, when I was a child growing up, I was different because I didn't have adult responsibilities, so it's a different era that I'm talking about. But still, knowing people that I knew that used to work at CRT, knowing my godparents and my mother, if they had any issues, they can contact this person at CRT and they could get some things done. Maybe that's just favoritism or whatever you want to call it. And CRT has not been, let's say, I mean, I think the goal was at some point, and it's not fair to put it on CRT or even put it on the Urban League, was these were programs to try to address poverty in your city. And it's unfair to say, okay, has poverty really been eradicated? Has it really been dramatically reduced through the whereabouts of certain anti-poverty CRT